In the 5th year of my marriage to Alexia, the girl he had been keeping in a hotel was exposed, and the news spread everywhere. In order not to let her bear the label of the other woman, Alexia came to see me with a divorce agreement in hand and said, "My teacher once helped me before he passed away. He asked me to take good care of Holly. Now that something like this has blown up, I can't just ignore it." All these years, Holly had always been Alexia's first choice. In my previous life, when I heard those words, I completely broke down. I made a huge scene and refused to divorce no matter what, until I was diagnosed with severe depression. Because of a single sentence from Holly, "Sister Regina doesn't look like she's sick at all," Alexia concluded that I was faking it, believed I was playing hard to get, framed me for cheating, and directly filed for divorce. Only then did I understand that I could never measure up to a debt of gratitude. In despair, I took my own life. When I opened my eyes again, I signed the divorce agreement without the slightest hesitation. Chapter 1. Regina, once this blows over, can we remarry, okay? In the courtyard of the villa, I was sitting on a stone bench in a daze when Alexia arrived in front of me with Holly. Just 3 hours earlier, Holly had been exposed by paparazzi as a suspected lover of Alexia. The entire internet was digging into her past, cursing her as the mistress who had inserted herself into the sweet love between Alexia and me. A homewrecker. Alexia Santos's image as a devoted husband collapsed overnight, and the stock price of the Santos Group began to fluctuate. In my previous life, when Alexia came to me with the divorce agreement, I was so full of hatred that I ripped out every rose he had planted for me in the courtyard, hysterically questioning his relationship with Holly. She was clearly just his mentor's daughter. There were clearly countless ways to handle it. Yet he chose to sacrifice me, all because he didn't want Holly's depression to worsen. What Alexia didn't know was that during the time the topic was fermenting on the trending charts, I was also diagnosed with moderate depression. "Regina," Alexia called my name again, pulling me back from my daze. I lowered my eyes, letting my gaze fall on the divorce agreement lying on the stone table. He knelt on one knee at my feet, his deep eyes fixed on me, his burning palm wrapping around my hand. His tone was coaxing. "Regina, just do it for me, all right? We'll announce to the public that our marriage has long existed in name only, and that we already planned to divorce a year ago. We just couldn't find the right timing." I didn't speak for a long time. Behind him, Holly was dressed in a white dress, Alexia's coat draped over her shoulders, her lips pale and her eyes red. "Sister Regina, please help me, okay? My mother committed suicide because of depression caused by online abuse. I don't want to walk down the same road. Sister, I'll kneel for you, please help me." As her words fell, she bent down as if to kneel. Alexia reacted instantly, stood up, caught her, and instinctively pulled her into his arms. His expression darkened as he scolded her in a low voice. "What are you doing?" Holly choked slightly, her voice soft and trembling with sobs. Then she lowered her tear-filled eyes. I just wanted to make Sister feel a bit better." Impatience immediately crept into Alexia's brows. He looked at me, the tenderness from before completely gone. "Regina, I didn't come here to negotiate with you. I've already made up my mind about this. If you're unwilling to divorce, then don't blame me." I calmly raised my eyes to meet his gaze. The rest of his words came to an abrupt stop, but I knew exactly what he was going to say. He was going to say, "Regina, you know what methods I have. I have countless ways to make you sign obediently. If it comes to a divorce lawsuit, there's no way you could ever beat the Santos Group's lawyers." Those were his exact words in my previous life. Later, I was set up and sent into the beds of several male models. The evidence of my cheating was irrefutable. Overnight, I became a promiscuous woman who had betrayed her marriage, condemned by public opinion, and he and Holly became the innocent victims. "I can sign," I said after a long while, "but you have to promise me one thing." Chapter 2. Alexia lifted his eyes to look at me, then nodded in agreement. He handed me the pen. I took it, and without the slightest ripple of emotion, signed my name on the divorce agreement. "Aren't you going to read the agreement again?" Alexia frowned. I smiled. No need. He was practically leaving with nothing, handing all his assets over to me, just for Holly, just to repay a debt of gratitude. "Find some time tomorrow to go to the civil affairs office." "All right," I replied, Alexia's hand holding the divorce papers paused slightly. There was a hint of confusion in his eyes as he looked at me. But in the end, he said nothing. As they were leaving, Holly turned back and shot me a mocking glance. Her thin lips moved soundlessly. You lost. I did lose. I lost an entire lifetime, so this time, I refuse to lose again. After a while, my phone screen lit up. It was a message from Alexia. I'm sorry about what happened today. Regina, you were wronged. Once this blows over, I'll give you another grand wedding. We'll remarry. I can't just watch Holly's depression get worse. You can understand me, right? I stared at that last sentence and couldn't help laughing, tears gathering at the corners of my eyes. It was the same in my previous life. Back then, to force me into divorce, Alexia sought advice from his friends and drank himself senseless. What he forgot was that his friends were also my friends. Mason earnestly tried to persuade Alexia not to ruin his marriage for Holly. At the same time, he mediated on my side, asking me to try to be understanding, saying Alexia was a man who valued loyalty and gratitude. If Holly's father hadn't recognized Alexia's talent back then, invested in him and helped him start his business, Alexia wouldn't have what he has today. I cried as I argued back. Alexia has 1,000 ways to clarify the situation. Why does it have to be divorce? Mason fell silent. He had asked Alexia that very question. Alexia's answer was, someone has to be hurt. I can only wrong Regina. She loves me, she'll understand. Because I loved him, I was the one to be sacrificed. What kind of logic was that? Fortunately, I was given another chance. Chapter 3. Whenever it involved Holly, Alexia always acted with remarkable efficiency. He had just signed the divorce agreement with me during the day, and that very evening he arranged a press conference, even sending his assistant to invite me to attend for clarification. I hadn't spoken yet. The assistant, thinking I was about to refuse, hurriedly relayed Alexia Santos's words to me. He said, Miss Regina, you should attend this press conference, even if it's not for Mr. Santos. It's for your own reputation. I froze for a second, then let out a cold laugh. Alexia was threatening me. Once again, he was trying to use the same tactics from my previous life, forcing me to compromise, launching a smear campaign, letting me struggle under public opinion, until I had no choice but to bow my head. I had never been able to understand whether Alexia saw me as his wife or as his enemy, now that he wanted to publicly clarify our relationship. I was no exception. The press conference was held in the grand lobby of North City's most luxurious hotel, with only the most influential reporters in the industry invited. When Holly appeared arm in arm with Alexia, dressed in a cheongsam, the reporters surged forward in an instant. Alexia instinctively shielded Holly behind him, smiling as he blocked the microphones for her. Please wait. I'll answer everyone's questions one by one. For now, could you make some space? His voice was gentle. When he lifted his head, his gaze happened to collide with mine. I was also surrounded by reporters. For a fleeting moment, I found myself secretly hoping that Alexia would step in to help me too. But the very next second, he calmly looked away, a faint smile at the corner of his lips, holding Holly's hand as he walked onto the stage. As if he had never seen me at all, I curled my lips in self-mockery. The reporter closest to me seemed to be an intern. Timidly, she handed the microphone to me and asked, Miss Regina, have you really divorced Mr. Santos? Yes, I smiled and nodded. The intern pushed her glasses up. But you and Mr. Santos met in high school, dated for 7 years, and were married for 5. Just last month, Mr. Santos spent a fortune to buy a private island and named it after you. I kept smiling, though the smile never reached my eyes. That was what he owed me. It was compensation for missing my birthday to take care of Holly when she was ill. In my previous life, I had been secretly pleased by that gesture. Only later did I find out that the idea came from Mason. The island was chosen by Alexia's assistant, and Alexia himself didn't even know where the island was. Then, do you still love Mr. Santos now? She looked at me nervously. The reporters around me fell silent. Even Alexia on the stage turned to look at me. His brows knitted slightly. I merely glanced at him calmly, then curved my lips and said, I don't. Chapter 4. I didn't stay until the end of the interview. After Alexia finished clarifying that our marriage had already existed in name only a year ago, I left the venue. Overnight, I became something Alexia had discarded, secondhand goods no one wanted. And Holly became the only truly innocent victim in this storm of public opinion. That interview was pinned to the top of social media for days, the topic's popularity never fading, especially the part Alexia said, "I had already planned to divorce Regina a year ago. It was just that the timing wasn't right. We originally intended to handle it quietly. But now that it's affected an innocent person, we had no choice but to clarify it publicly. Miss Holly is not a homewrecker who caused the breakdown of our relationship. She is the only person my teacher left behind in this world. It's only natural that I take extra care of her. I hope everyone can view this matter rationally." Some fans were misled into believing that the reason my relationship with Alexia fell apart was that I couldn't tolerate any perceived flaw, and that I twisted their pure brother and sister bond, what they called a debt of gratitude, into something sordid. They said I was narrow-minded, lacking generosity, married for 5 years yet never learned even a fraction of Alexia's loyalty and sense of obligation. The discussion fermented for days. I became the target of all criticism. After collecting the divorce certificate and walking out of the civil affairs office, Alexia called out to me, "Don't take what people say online to heart. In no time, everyone will forget about it." I stopped and couldn't help letting out a soft laugh. We were both being cursed on social media, so why was the difference so vast? "Regina, the new year will be here in 2 months. At the beginning of next year, let's remarry, okay?" He looked at me and was about to step closer when I took a step back, my expression calm as I shifted my gaze toward the reporters blocked by bodyguards not far away. Alexia seemed to realize it wasn't appropriate and stopped where he was. "Alexia, I'm going back to City A. You really haven't been back in a long time. Going back is good. After the new year, I'll go pick you up and..." "I'm not coming back," I interrupted him calmly. The faint smile on his face froze, confusion flickering in his eyes. Then I added, "Back when I agreed to sign the divorce papers, you promised me one thing. Now it's time to fulfill it." Alexia stared at me blankly. When I was first reborn, it took me only a few seconds to process my love and hatred for Alexia. The moment I saw the divorce agreement, I had thought about going crazy, tearing it up and making another scene with him. But in the end, reason won out. After a long pause, I curved my lips into a smile. "Alexia, I hope you never appear in front of me again." Chapter 5. After Regina finished speaking with a smile and faded into the crowd, Alexia stood there for a long time, unable to react. For a fleeting moment, he felt an inexplicable sense of panic, as if he was about to lose the most important thing in his life. Just like the day Regina calmly signed the divorce agreement, unease had quietly settled in his heart. She didn't argue or make a fuss, as though she had already foreseen every possible ending. Yet not long ago, Regina had made a huge scene because he forgot her birthday. She had even slapped him. He had assumed that when he proposed a fake divorce, Regina would go mad and fight him tooth and nail. He had even prepared himself for it. But she didn't. She picked up the pen, her expression so calm it was like stagnant water. In that moment, he had wanted to stop Regina, but in the end, he did nothing. He thought, "It's fine. Regina loves him deeply. It was only a fake divorce. He would make it up to her properly in the future." But Holly was different. She couldn't be hurt in any way because of him. Back then, if Holly's father hadn't recognized his talent, if he hadn't risked being expelled from the board of directors to invest in Alexia's project, guiding him as he grew and helping him rise among North City's new elite, Alexia wouldn't have achieved what he has today. And he wouldn't have been worthy of Holly. Before Holly's father passed away, he asked Alexia to protect Holly and ensure her safety and well-being. He didn't want to become someone who betrayed trust and gratitude. Mason once asked him, "If one day, Holly and Regina fell off a cliff at the same time, who would you save?" At the time, he laughed, thinking the question was ridiculous. He would save Holly, but he would die together with Regina. Mason laughed along with him, but then asked, "What if Regina doesn't want to die?" "Alexia, you can't keep wronging Regina just because she loves you. If she can't feel your love, she'll fall into despair too." That day, he brushed it off. He never took those words to heart. He never expected that in the end, those words would become a prophecy. Chapter 6. That night, Alexia still returned to the villa. Ever since marrying him, Regina had lived in the hillside villa. She was an outstanding painter. At the age of 10, she was crowned a prodigy after painting a landscape imbued with an otherworldly artistic conception. Everyone believed her attainments in traditional Chinese painting were extraordinary and that she would become one of the leading figures in the field, and she did. Only after marriage, Regina's painting style changed. No longer what it once was. Her teacher tried earnestly to guide and counsel her, but with little effect. Later on, Regina gave up painting altogether, even resisting the act of picking up a brush. Alexia walked into Regina's studio. When he saw the landscape painting on the easel, he couldn't help but freeze for a moment. With only a few strokes, it was vivid and alive. Seeing the light on in the studio, the housekeeper came over. When she saw Alexia, she looked slightly surprised. "Sir." Alexia lifted his head. "When did Madam paint this?" The housekeeper replied, "The day you came back with Miss Holly." Alexia nodded. He curved his lips, wanting to smile, but couldn't manage to. After leaving the studio, he returned to the bedroom he shared with Regina. He had told himself countless times that he and Regina were only divorced in name. Once the storm passed, he would propose to Regina again and make up for everything with a grand wedding. But somehow, his heart felt inexplicably empty. He dismissed everything Regina had said that day as angry words spoken in the heat of the moment. Their home was here in North City. How could she not come back? Knock, knock. The door to the master bedroom was suddenly tapped. Sitting at the foot of the bed, Alexia looked up. It was Holly. She was wearing thin clothing, her cheeks faintly flushed, standing at the doorway, quietly looking at him. "Why are you here?" Holly pressed her lips together. "I was scared staying alone at the hotel, so I came to find you." "Did I?" She lowered her eyes mid-sentence. "Did I disturb you?" Alexia's brows furrowed slightly, but he still said, "It's fine. It's a bit late today. I'll have the housekeeper prepare a guest room for you. You can stay there for now." As he was about to call the housekeeper, Holly stepped forward and walked into the room, her eyes soft and tender as she looked at Alexia. "Ale, I don't want to stay in the guest room. Is that okay?" she asked softly, testing the waters. Alexia's brows knitted even tighter. His thin lips parted as he was about to refuse, but when he met her slightly reddened eyes, his heart softened after all. Chapter 7. When the plane landed in City A, Lucas was there to pick me up. When he was 18, he once saved a girl only to be falsely accused by her of sexual assault. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, with a criminal record. No company was willing to take him in. I met him at an art exhibition. He never spoke to anyone, always keeping his head lowered. When people approached him, he would only retreat timidly. Later, one night on my way home, I ran into a group of thugs and was nearly assaulted. He happened to pass by. I had thought he would turn a blind eye, but he didn't. He acted almost without hesitation. That night, I asked him, "What if I falsely accuse you too?" He gave a bitter smile. "Then I'll accept it. Using my family's influence, I helped clear his name." On the day the truth finally came to light, he stood in the distance, eyes reddened, looking at me through the crowd before bowing deeply in thanks. 3 years in prison hadn't erased his kindness. Because he once saved me, my father extended an olive branch to him and arranged for him to join the group. Starting from the bottom, he worked his way up step by step. Now, he was my father's most capable assistant. "Miss, long time no see." Lucas was wearing a trench coat as he naturally took my suitcase. I nodded, my nose inexplicably stinging. 5 years ago, after marrying Alexia, I followed him north. In my previous life, when everything happened to me, Lucas had been sent by my father to Country A for closed-off training. Until the day I died, I never saw Lucas again. "Miss, after returning this time, are you leaving again?" he asked. "No," I said. "I'm staying." Lucas smiled. "Sir knows you're back. He's very happy." I froze for a moment. The hand in my pocket tightened unconsciously, bitterness spreading through my chest. Back then, my divorce from Alexia had become public knowledge. Afraid I would be wronged, my father flew overnight from City A to North City. He earnestly tried to persuade me. Alexia never weighs his decisions properly. Back then, he would rather work with that old man than accept your help. Say it nicely. He didn't want to rely on you, but relying on Holly's family's investment somehow doesn't count. Regina. Once it's over. It's over. Alexia isn't right for you. He wanted to take me back to City A. But I refused. I cried and made a scene, insisting on staying. Through tears, I said, I love Alexia. I don't want a divorce. Why should I be sacrificed to repay his debt of gratitude? Even if he forces me to my death, I will never divorce him. I'm not leaving. In the end, my father was so angered by me that he suffered a heart attack and was sent to the ICU. Several critical condition notices were issued. Overnight, my mother's hair turned white. Later, when my father woke up, he said nothing, but I knew he was disappointed in me. Before my mother passed away, she was still trying to persuade me. All these years, your father has never interfered with any of your decisions. But Alexia is not a good man. At that time, I couldn't hear anything at all, stubbornly insisting on hitting a dead end. In the end, it took my life for me to finally understand. To Alexia, I was never that important. Are they all doing well? I asked Lucas. Lucas nodded. The group is developing very well. Sir and Madam are both in good health. I smiled faintly and met his cool gaze. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you for fulfilling my filial duty in my place. Lucas shook his head. He said it was what he should do. Back then, if my father and I hadn't given him a helping hand, he might have already died forgotten in some obscure corner of the world. Chapter 8. The trending topics on social media kept coming one after another. What started as Holly being labeled Alexia's mistress had now shifted into me being portrayed as heartless and ungrateful. Yesterday, paparazzi caught photos of Lucas and me at the airport. Today, the narrative had already turned into claims that I had been cheating long ago, and that was why my relationship with Alexia fell apart. I couldn't help laughing. When I lowered my gaze, my phone screen showed a message request from Holly's burner account, a photo she had sent. A picture of her staying overnight at the hillside villa. Alexia insisted on letting me stay last night. What do you think he'll do tonight? Alexia is a man with a strong sense of responsibility. Now that the shackles are gone, Regina, your husband is mine now. She was trying to provoke me, but my heart was already completely unmoved. Lucas poured me a cup of tea and handed it to me. His eyes flicked worriedly over my phone screen before he spoke in a low voice. Miss, the grievances you've suffered, I'll reclaim them for you. I didn't respond to that. Instead, I asked. I heard my father has introduced you to quite a few well-bred ladies. Hoping you'd settle down. Why did you refuse? Lucas clearly hadn't expected that question. He lowered his eyes, his fingertips rubbing slowly against the rim of the teacup. After a long silence, I asked again, is it because of me? He suddenly looked up. When his gaze met mine, he quickly averted his eyes again, hiding his unease. For 5 years, although Lucas and I had never met, every year on my birthday there was always an extravagant gift from him, spared no expense. From time to time, he would also transfer money into my account. He gave me almost everything he earned. I refused many times, but he remained persistent. Later, I called him and lost my temper at him for the first time. I said, Lucas, you saved me once. I helped you once. We're even. It was my father who brought you into the group. You got to where you are today through your own ability. You don't owe me anything. I'm not your creditor. What you're doing will only damage my marriage and make Alexia misunderstand our relationship. After that incident, Lucas stopped transferring money to me. The gifts, too, became restrained and appropriate. Lucas, I've said it before, you don't owe me anything. As soon as I finished speaking, Lucas pressed his lips together and said, that's not it. Then what is it? He looked at me, the corners of his lips lifting slightly. There was a faint smile on his face, an unmistakable affection in his eyes. I like you, miss. I know I am worlds apart from you. I never dared to hope you'd turn back and look at me. But my heart belongs to you. I don't want to lie to myself, and I don't want to delay anyone else. When his words fell, I lifted my eyes and quietly studied him. We were the same age, yet he had matured far earlier than I had. The first time I met him, he was timid, out of place. Now, he had become the backbone of the group, the person my father valued the most. Last night, after returning to the old residence, my father spoke with me for a long time. We talked about the group's future, about my future. In the end, he asked me 2 questions. The first was, "Do you still like Alexia?" I shook my head and gave a clear answer. But when it came to the second question, I fell silent. He asked me, "Are you willing to marry Lucas?" My father already had plans to retire. Although Lucas had followed him for many years, he was still not a member of the family by blood. At first, I was lost. But now, I had my answer. "Lucas," I asked softly, "would you be willing to marry me?" Chapter 9. 2 days later, in North City, Alexia sat alone in the studio, lowering his eyes as he watched the clip of Regina being interviewed by that intern reporter. The intern asked curiously, "Then do you still love Mr. Santos now?" Regina smiled as she answered, "No, just a few simple words." Yet they stirred an inexplicable heaviness in his chest. He replayed that segment countless times, trying to read something, anything, from Regina's eyes. In the end, there was nothing. Restless, he opened his chat history with Regina. Only then did he realize that the last message was still the one where he reminded her to go to the civil affairs office at 9 o'clock to collect the divorce certificate. And she had replied with a single word, "Okay." After that, there was nothing. In the past, Regina liked to cling to him, no matter how big or small the matter was. She would always share it with him. When he saw her messages, he would usually respond promptly. He scrolled further back. Later on, more often than not, it was Regina talking to herself. Occasionally, he would only find time to reply with a brief "okay" or "I know." Work at the group was overwhelming, and after Holly's mother passed away, Holly developed depression and attempted suicide again and again. He simply couldn't manage everything. Suddenly, a message from Mason popped up. "Regina is going to marry Lucas." Alexia shot to his feet. In his haste, he knocked over the easel beside him. The landscape painting fluttered to the floor as he bent down anxiously to pick it up. A medical report slipped out from beneath the drawing board. He froze for 2 seconds. After reading through it, his fingertips began to tremble. The patient exhibits severe emotional instability, recurrent suicidal ideation, and serious sleep disturbances. Based on evaluation, the patient shows signs of moderate depression. The date at the bottom was the very day he proposed the fake divorce to Regina. Ale. What happened? Holly heard the noise and hurried out of the master bedroom, jogging into the studio. When she saw the diagnostic report in Alexia's hand, a calculating glint flashed across her eyes. "May I take a look at it?" Holly asked softly. Alexia didn't say a word. Only a wave after wave of dull pain surged through his chest. She smoothly took the report from his hand. After flipping through a few pages, she deliberately let out a breath of relief, patted Alexia on the shoulder, and comforted him. "Ale, don't worry. Have you forgotten? I'm also a depression patient. You've seen what it's like when I have an episode. That day I saw Sister. She looked so healthy, nothing like someone who's sick. She was probably just too angry and used a fake medical report to deceive you." Holly looked at Alexia. Just as she was about to continue speaking, Alexia suppressed the turmoil in his heart and took the report back from her hands. After taking a couple of steps, he seemed to remember something and turned back to say, "Starting tomorrow, don't stay in the master bedroom anymore. If Regina finds out, she'll start making a scene again." As soon as the words fell, Holly stood frozen in place. By the time she snapped out of it and chased after him, calling out, "Ale," Alexia had already gone downstairs, so hurried that he hadn't even taken his coat. Whether the medical report was real or fake, whether Regina was going to marry Lucas or not, at that moment, there was only one thought in his mind: to see Regina and bring her home. Chapter 10. Lucas took our wedding very seriously. Every detail was personally overseen by him. During the day, he ran back and forth between the company and the wedding venue. At night, he sat in the living room, carefully handwriting the invitations one stroke at a time. "Lucas, you can leave these things to your assistants," I said, holding my cup as I stood at the staircase and looked at him in the living room. "You're already exhausted from work. There's no need to put in so much extra effort." He set down his pen and smiled at me gently. "No matter what it is, I want to give you the best. Miss, I know you might not necessarily have me in your heart, but I hold you at the very center of mine." The moment our eyes met, My heart stirred for the first time in a long while. You don't need to feel any pressure, he added softly. Just focus on being a beautiful bride. Lucas continued smiling, the emotions in his eyes no longer concealed. In the end, I smiled back and nodded. What I didn't expect was that Alexia would come to City A. Lucas and I had just finished trying on our wedding attire when I saw Alexia standing beneath the camphor tree across the street. He was dressed in a simple white shirt, his hair disheveled, his face faintly pale, not a trace of light left in his eyes. After his gaze lingered briefly on the hands Lucas and I were holding, he looked away. Alexia forced a smile and looked at me. Regina, I've come to take you home. Let's not wait until next year. Let's go back now and remarry, all right? As he spoke, he took a few steps toward us. Lucas instinctively moved to stand in front of me, but I stopped him, while straightening his slightly crooked tie. I said softly, "Go wait for me in the car first. I'll be back soon. Mom is making your favorite dishes tonight. We'll go home together later." Lucas lowered his eyes to look at me, the corners of his lips lifting slightly. All right. After giving Alexia a brief, indifferent glance, he turned and walked toward the garage. Soon, only Alexia and I were left by the roadside. He subconsciously tried to move closer. I quietly took a few steps back and said gently, "Mr. Santos, it's better we keep some distance. Otherwise, if paparazzi catch this, there'll be rumors again about me deliberately entangling myself with my ex-husband. No matter when. People are always especially harsh toward women. The situation with Holly was the best example. From start to finish, it was Alexia who failed to weigh things properly, yet in the end, it became my fault for not being magnanimous enough. Regina, Alexia's eyes dimmed, the bitter smile on his face never reaching his eyes. I've already asked my assistant to handle what's happening online. I'm sorry, you've been wronged. I didn't know you were suffering so much. I didn't know. Alexia, you knew, I said calmly as I looked at him. If he truly didn't understand how public opinion could crush someone into depression, he wouldn't have chosen to divorce me just to protect Holly. In my previous life, I was framed for cheating with multiple male models. After the court ruled in favor of my divorce from Alexia, my reputation was ruined, my career collapsed, and everyone watched me like a joke. Some even came up to me and said, "Regina, after your ex-husband ruined you like this, how do you still have the nerve to live?" If it were me, I'd have jumped off the 18th floor already. Mrs. Santos? Alexia never cared about her. Otherwise, how could he have pushed her this far? Later, I suffered from insomnia night after night, sitting by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at the countless lights below. I burned down my studio. I burned everything Alexia had ever given me. As if doing so could carve him out of my heart, I poured out all my resentment. I hated how the boy who once filled my world with love had led me to a dead end. In the end, I slit my wrists. Even now, I still remember the sensation of my blood slowly draining from my body. Chapter 11. Alexia opened his mouth, wanting to explain, but when the words reached his lips, none of them came out. In the end, he could only lower his head helplessly. "Regina, I'll make it up to you." I couldn't help laughing. I had heard that sentence far too many times. After Holly's father passed away, Alexia left in the middle of our engagement banquet. He said, "Regina, something happened to Holly. I need to go check on her." On our wedding day, Holly attempted suicide again. After sending me back to the bridal suite, Alexia didn't return the entire night. Back then, I hesitated over whether I should continue this relationship. But when I saw how exhausted Alexia looked, I endured it. I loved him, so I was willing to walk through every hardship with him. Every broken promise eventually turned into the same sentence. "Regina, I'll make it up to you in the future." Alexia always thought we had all the time in the world, but he forgot. Love can be worn away. By the end of my previous life, I could no longer tell whether what I felt for Alexia was love, or simply obsession. After a long silence, I said mockingly, "Alexia, what I want is already very little, and yet you still can't spare it for me. I am also my parents' precious daughter, cherished in the palms of their hands. What right do you have to trample on me like this? So let it go." As my words fell, I withdrew my gaze and turned to leave. In a panic, Alexia grabbed my arm. His tall frame staggered, almost losing balance. His pale lips trembled as he spoke. I don't agree. It can't just end like this. Regina, you're my wife. You can't abandon me. His voice shook at the end. I laughed softly and pulled my arm free. We're already divorced. Alexia, you were the one who forced me to sign the divorce agreement. You threatened me into attending the press conference. You personally watched me collect the divorce certificate at the Civil Affairs office. You did all of that. You can't deny it. Can you? Alexia fell silent. I turned to leave. When he tried to chase after me again, I tilted my chin slightly toward the direction behind him. Mr. Santos, I said calmly. You and Holly actually make quite a matching pair. The color drained from Alexia Santos's face instantly. Chapter 12. He arrived in City A at dawn. After his assistant tracked down Regina's schedule, he didn't rest for even a moment before coming to find her. But when he saw her, dressed in a wedding gown, laughing and playing around with Lucas, he gradually slowed his steps. Standing dazed beneath the camphor tree, he didn't know when it started, but he had rarely seen Regina laugh so freely anymore. Every time they met, they argued over Holly. Slowly, he stopped coming home. Either he stayed overnight at the company, or drank through the night with Mason and the others. So at that moment, he understood with painful clarity. What Regina had said that day at the Civil Affairs office had come from the heart. She no longer wanted him, but he couldn't live without her. However long the two of them stayed busy inside the bridal shop, he stood outside for just as long. He even thought about storming in, beating Lucas, and warning him, "Don't covet my wife." But in the end, he still couldn't take that step. He was afraid Holly would hate him. Sister has already left for a long time now. Holly tugged at Alexia's sleeve, pulling him back from his trance. He lowered his eyes to look at her, his voice hoarse. Why are you here? I heard sister was going to marry someone else. I was afraid you'd be upset, so I came to check on you. She spoke softly. Then, just as she was about to hug Alexia frowned and pressed his hand against her shoulder, stopping her. In an instant, her eyes filled with tears. If sister doesn't want you, I do. Let's get married too. Okay. Alexia had never once refused any of her requests. She had thought that after Regina divorced him, she would naturally take the position of Mrs. Santos. But at that moment, Alexia's face turned cold. Holly, he said sharply. Do you even know what you're saying? I do, Alexia. I like you. It was the first time she openly confessed her feelings. Alexia let out a pale, broken laugh. He laughed, and then he cried. Mason had warned him countless times. The way Holly looks at you isn't innocent. If you don't want your marriage ruined, you should send her away. Alexia, you're blinded by being in the middle of it. You can't see Holly's true intentions. Send her away. Don't let her destroy your marriage. But he never believed it. Not even once. He had it coming. Chapter 13. City A was far from North City, but once anything made its way onto social media, it fermented at an astonishing speed. On the third day, Alexia continued pestering me. Lucas sent the evidence proving that Holly had falsified her medical records to Alexia's email. At the same time, he compiled years' worth of proof showing how Alexia had repeatedly broken promises to me because of Holly, forming a complete chain of evidence, and released it all online. Overnight, public opinion split sharply into two camps, yet none of it had anything to do with me anymore. Some said Holly had used a debt of gratitude as leverage, deliberately destroying my marriage with Alexia, which ultimately led to our breakup. Others said Alexia was hypocritical. If he truly wanted to repay Holly's father for believing in him back then, couldn't he have done so with money and resources? Why did he have to trample on his own wife, forcing her into despair and divorce? Alexia's reputation collapsed. The group's stock price fluctuated violently. Not long after, I released another piece of evidence I had uncovered by chance, proof that Holly had orchestrated everything herself. She had hired people to secretly photograph her entering and leaving hotels with Alexia, then bought accounts to curse herself as a mistress, deliberately fueling the scandal. Social media erupted into chaos. Alexia was overwhelmed. running himself ragged. He had originally planned to send Holly abroad, but after seeing this topic, he nearly strangled her to death on the roadside. He forced her to explain. Why did you do this? At first, Holly tried to play the sympathy card, but when she was nearly unable to breathe, she suddenly burst into hysterical laughter and openly admitted everything. I just wanted to be Mrs. Santos. I wanted to force Regina to divorce you. Alexia, if you had truly loved Regina, I wouldn't have had a single opening to exploit. Alexia was so furious that he vomited blood on the spot and collapsed unconscious. The scene was captured by passers-by and rapidly spread across the internet. The Santos Group's stock price plunged, a sea of red turning to green. After Alexia woke up, he showed signs of mental instability and was directly removed from his position as CEO. As for Holly, her reputation was completely ruined, and she had no choice but to leave the country. Unfortunately, on the way to the airport, she was involved in a car accident and died on the spot. Chapter 14. On the day of the wedding, Lucas gave me a grand ceremony. Flowers filled the entire city. Fireworks lit up the night, and everyone knew of it. When a guest joked that marrying Lucas must have been the good fortune I cultivated in a past life, Lucas let out a cold laugh and had the person escorted out of the wedding on the spot. Then, openly and without hesitation, he said after the vows, I am a live-in son-in-law of the Kim family. In this life, I live as a member of the Kim family. In death, I remain one as well. Lucas knew that my heart might not belong entirely to him yet, but the way he treated me had never changed. On our wedding night, he held me tightly, as if afraid I might leave, afraid I might disappear. It wasn't until I pressed him for the truth that I found out. Alexia had committed suicide. Before he died, there was a brief period when he was lucid. During that time, he mailed the medical report I had once left behind in the studio to Lucas. He also wrote me a letter. It was long. Every line was filled with remorse toward me. He wrote about having a nightmare. In that dream, he forced me to divorce him. I refused to compromise, so he framed me and sent me into the beds of several men. In the end, I fell into despair and slit my wrists. He said that in the dream, he hadn't meant to do it. He only wanted me to give in, to bow my head. He never imagined it would drive me to such hopelessness and death. He also wrote that he never knew my illness had been real. If he had known, he would never have treated me that way. When he saw the bathroom filled with blood in that dream, his heart shattered. He wished the one who had died had been himself. At the end of the letter, there was a single sentence. Fortunately, what happened in the dream never came true. And another, I'm sorry. I let out a cold laugh. In the end, I casually tossed the letter into the trash, along with that medical report. Lucas frowned slightly. I said softly, the Regina from before was sick, but I'm not that Regina anymore. After leaving him, the illness healed as well. After a long moment, Lucas smiled, helpless, yet indulgent. I looked at him and smiled too. Fortunately, in this lifetime, I didn't lose anything at all.